Well, and it's just a matter of common sense, it would seem, in the downtown area with the store doors opening and a lot of pedestrian traffic. As a bicyclist, you can see how it becomes very dangerous to be on the sidewalks, and with the slow-moving traffic, it just makes sense to be in the street. And of course, there's no bicycling allowed at all on the pedestrian plaza because it's meant for pedestrians.
Exactly.
And that's why we don't have bicycle racks in the middle of the pedestrian plaza, but on the edges.
Yep, exactly. We try and encourage people to walk in the Ped Mall by providing abundant bike parking at each of the entrances, and those tend to be pretty full. People tend to follow that requirement.
Well, Chris, anything else you want to add as we work to become a more bicycle-friendly community, or about the bike plan, or about the new sharrows and street markings?
Only that I think the steps that the city has been taking have been really well received. I've received lots of positive comments about the work that we've been doing with the bike plan and with the new bike lanes and sharrows. And I think that those things are only going to make people feel more comfortable riding their bikes to school or to work, and will probably help us get a higher designation when we apply to be a bike-friendly community.
Chris, thank you for joining us today. After this short message, we'll be back with Mark Wyatt of the Iowa Bicycle Coalition to discuss sharing the road, whether you are a bicyclist or a motorist.
In an effort to become more bicycle-friendly, some Johnson County communities are installing new sharrow pavement markings and bike lanes on streets this summer. The sharrows, which are an alternative to bike lanes, can be found on 5th Street in Coralville and on Market, Jefferson, and College Streets in Iowa City. Bike lanes will be painted on segments of Market and Jefferson Streets as well. A sharrow does not demarcate a street bicycle lane, but it does direct the bicyclist to travel in the proper lane position to avoid being hit by opening of doors of parked cars. The sharrow markings also remind roadway users where the travel lane is too narrow to be safely shared side by side by cyclists and passing motorists. Many cyclists know that when there is no bike lane present, cyclists are expected to ride on the right. Some sharrows and bike lanes, however, are located in the left lane. Why? In a word, safety. 1. Bicycle lanes and sharrows on the left side of some one-way streets are gaining popularity to help reduce the number of bicyclists being struck by opening car doors. 2. This location removes bicyclists from the paths of buses pulling into bus stops. 3. The left curb lane is the most clear of snow on streets where vehicles park along the right curb. And 4. The design helps to increase visibility as the rear right blind spot is eliminated and drivers can more easily see a bicyclist in the driver's side mirror. For more information on sharrows and bike lanes or other improvements to the local bicycling network, contact Christopher Ackerson, JCOG Assistant Transportation Planner at 319-356-5247.
Welcome back to At Home in Iowa City. I'm your host, Mayor Regina Bailey. I'm here on the 6th floor of Hotel Vetro in downtown Iowa City with Mark Wyatt of the Iowa Bicycle Coalition. Mark, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the Iowa Bicycle Coalition.
Well, thanks for asking. We're a statewide organization. We're member-based, and we try to promote bicycling and education and safety throughout Iowa. The whole idea is to increase the number of people that ride bikes, both for recreation and for transportation.
Okay, which means that you're the absolute expert today, the person we need here, talking about bicycle safety.
Sure.
If you're a motorist or if you're a bicyclist.
You bet.
I have a Share the Road license plate, so
Yeah.
when I'm driving my vehicle, how can I really do a good job of sharing the road? What are the things I need to be aware of?
Well, I think that you need to, first of all, concentrate on driving. That's probably the most important thing. So cell phones and DVD players and makeup and eating, there probably doesn't really have a place in the car. So you got to focus on what you're doing. The other important part is just to expect bicycle traffic, expect pedestrians, expect things on the roadway that probably aren't other motor vehicles, and that's the second big tip. So the other thing is just keep an eye out and scan and be prepared to stop. I think that's probably the biggest solution that you can, is just be prepared to be patient.
One of the questions that I have when I'm driving my vehicle is, passing bicyclists. That's a really concerning issue. I mean, it's for bicyclists as well as for motorists who want to be responsible and sharing the road. Talk a little bit about how we do that safely and what works for bicyclists and what you should think of as a motorist.
I think every bicyclist probably has a story that the motorist got too close to them, and a lot of times maybe the motorist isn't even aware how close they are, or what could happen. There's a lot of things that the bicyclist needs for a little bit of space to operate. Anywhere between 3 and 5 feet of space, if you can leave between your passenger door or the mirror, if that sticks out further, and the bicyclist will give them plenty of room to operate. And 3 feet of space is just holding your arm straight out. So a few feet is going to make a big difference. Don't honk. Don't startle the bicyclists, and probably one of my bigger fears is don't try to squeeze by when there's oncoming traffic coming at you, because you have a decision to make, and are you going to hit the other car? Are you going to hit the bicyclist? It's better to wait a second or two and then go through.
Well, and should you even try to pass a bicyclist when you're in town driving on a city street? I mean, what do you think?
And some of the city streets here in Iowa City are great because they're wider streets. First Avenue or Scott Boulevard are really good examples where there's enough room to split the lane between a bicyclist and a motorist. But some other streets, say for example Dubuque Street in downtown, that's a pretty tight and narrow thing. So you're really probably only going to be doing 15 to 20 mile an hour on Dubuque Street anyhow. Waiting a second or two where it's safe to pass will probably make the difference, and really, could just stop you from hitting somebody, and nobody wants to go through that.
Right. I mean, you make a good point. A lot of our streets, we have older neighborhoods, we have some narrow streets, so really being aware of that distance when you have a bicyclist, typically on your right, but bicyclists also have the right to take the full lane if they choose to drive in that, or ride in that manner.
Exactly that, and sometimes it's better if they're away from the curb a few feet. There's debris and there's rocks and some pavement problems if you stay too close to the curb. Also, probably more importantly, if you're away from the curb, you're a little more visible to motorists. You don't blend into the parked cars or the scenery. Parked cars are another big problem for bicyclists. If you travel too close to the car door, somebody could open their door if they're parked street side, and that can be pretty devastating injury for a lot of bicyclists.
So that's a really good point. If you're a motorist parking on the street, really looking in your mirror, looking behind you before, not only for vehicles, which you typically do when you're parking on the street, but also check it out for bicyclists coming along the way, right?
You bet. Just take that second, check your mirrors, turn your head, and make sure there's nobody coming before you open your door, and everybody will be safe that way.
Another challenging street, I think, in Iowa City, and I hear about this, is Iowa Avenue, because we have angle parking there now. And sometimes angle parking can be a challenge when you're moving out of a parking spot and bicyclists. Any advice for motorists as they're backing up?
I always get cautious in angle parking. I also, the same caution I have with parking lots. If I'm traveling to Hy-Vee or one of the other stores, I try to stay towards the middle of the lane as the bicyclist, towards that center line, so I have plenty of room. I also look and see if that car's moving. If somebody's kind of getting in and out, the bumper may bounce a little bit. If the driver's kind of looking in their mirror and moving the gear stick, then I start to think, they may be pulling out. And, bicyclists tend to be kind of hyper aware of those situations and try to look out for themselves. So, and motorists, you need to really kind of scan, turn your head. Boy, that's a big change, but not just looking in the mirror, but turning your head and looking makes a big difference.